Hey guys, so just before the video starts, I was in the middle of editing this video and then my computer decided to die. So there was supposed to be a visual element to it, but I don't have time to do that now. So it's just gonna be the audio, and then there should be timestamps in the description if you're looking for any certain team. That way you don't have to listen to the whole thing if you don't want to. But yeah, sorry about that. Welcome back to the Cap Report. In this video, we will be doing my 2021 mock draft. This is a video that I've been wanting to do, and I've been saying I'm gonna do, and I never got around to doing it. So it is the day of the draft, but we still getting a mock draft in. We're gonna get at least one in. I spent all night doing this, so. I was debating on whether or not I would do trades in this, because without trades, you tend to get guys to drop that like unrealistically would not drop as far as they do. And plus, I think with trades is a lot more interesting, and obviously they're not all bound to happen. It's impossible to predict that type of stuff, but I think it just at least makes it a little more fun. I ended up including trades in this. Feel free to leave any comments of what you thought of my picks and stuff like that. You know, mock drafts can be very hit or miss with people, so I'd love to see what you guys think too. But yeah, feel free to comment, like, subscribe, all that type of stuff, and then I'll go ahead and get into the mock draft. One last thing, I wasn't sure if I should go completely off of what I would pick, or you know, what I think's gonna happen, or what's reported, you know what I mean? So I kind of just went with a mix of those, what reports are leaning towards, what I think is the right move as well, and just what situationally is happening with the way the board falls. I just want to put that in there too. These first two picks feel a bit automatic, but you know, we got to go through them anyway. With the first pick in the draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Trevor Lawrence, quarterback out of Clemson. He's considered a generational talent, considered one of the best quarterback prospects since like Andrew Luck. I don't know if I'm as high on him as all of that, but I mean, I am going to acknowledge at this point right now he's probably the best quarterback in the draft. Although, as I said, I don't think it's as far as everyone else does. With the second pick in the draft, the New York Jets select Zach Wilson, quarterback out of BYU. This one I think is interesting because he's become like the consensus number 2 guy, but it's just weird. It was ever since I believe like his pro day where he just made some crazy throws, he's kind of just been cemented as the number 2 guy. And I don't know, to me it's always weird because like Fields, I feel like in his pro day made some of the exact like same throws that Wilson was making. And I really think that, you know, Fields has the talent to be this pick, but unless everything's just been a massive smokescreen, it's probably going to be Wilson. So because of that, you know, I'm gonna stick with that and have Wilson as number 2. Now this is where everything gets really interesting at the third pick, the 49ers, because supposedly they're between Mac Jones and Trey Lance, right? Their possible choices here are Jones, Lance, and then you could even put Fields in here as well, though a lot of the reports are saying it's between Jones and Lance. Supposedly as well, Mike Shanahan's going to play a big role in this decision, that he's very high on Mac Jones, and the rest of the organization supposedly is big on Lance. So it's interesting to see who they'll pick. I guess one thing that works in Jones's favor is that he ran a similar offense in college. So with that being said, with the third pick, the San Francisco 49ers select Mac Jones, quarterback out of Alabama. Now, I don't know if I necessarily agree with this pick. I would probably say Trey Lance would be better here in terms of upside. You can sit him behind Garoppolo for a year, you know, let Lance really develop and then put him in. But Jones, you can probably play this year if you wanted. He's still probably better to sit behind Garoppolo for a bit. But I don't know. This one's really hard to pick. Like, it's really a coin flip. So, but I'm just going to go with what seems to be, you know, believed, which is going to be Mac Jones, but it really could be either of these guys. This pick will have ripple effects though for the entire draft. Like what decisions made here could create several different paths of where the draft plays out. Next we have in the fourth pick, the Atlanta Falcons. They've got a couple options here. They could draft Kyle Pitts, who many people believe is just the best non-quarterback, best I've heard what someone say pound for pound. Like he's the best prospect outside of the quarterbacks, outside of maybe positional value and things like that. So their options here, are Kyle Pitts, maybe one of the remaining quarterbacks, so Lance or Fields, and trading down is very much an option here too, though it's hard to say. I don't know if anyone wants to put the capital up that it would take to move up to the fourth pick. If there was someone who really, I mean, maybe you get a Washington or a Chicago, because Chicago seems desperate for a quarterback, and history, if you look back at the Trubisky trade, a lot of things kind of align with this. So maybe there's something there, but probably not. I don't think that they're going to actually trade out of this spot. I think that Atlanta just takes the best player available because odds are, it looks like they're trading Julio as well. Well, not looks like, but it looks like they're willing to trade Julio. So if they trade Julio, they take someone like Pitts. He can line up as a receiver or a tight end. And yeah, he's what Evan Ingram was supposed to be. That's what Kyle Pitts will probably be. Someone who's just impossible to match up with wherever you put him. With that being said, the 4th pick in the draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida. Moving on to the 5th pick, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, and they've got their pick here is probably between 2 guys, either Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell, and it really just depends, right? Because Sewell's probably the better pick here, but this is a really deep tackle class, so odds are if they wanted to, they could probably take Chase and get not Sewell, but get a tackle early 2nd round. I mean, you could say the same thing in the other way around too, though, that wide receiver tends to be deep. So they could probably take Sewell and get a receiver 2nd round, right? Early 2nd round, they could probably get an LSU receiver in Terrace Marshall Jr. I mean, there's a chance maybe he goes late 1st, but he could go, 2nd round too. If they look 2nd round, they could probably pick up someone like Leatherwood from Alabama or Eichenberg from Notre Dame, right? So they're kind of good either way, the Bengals here. It's a matter of what they want, right? It's either reuniting Burrow with Chase or, getting protection around Sewell. And I think what I think is that with the 5th pick, the Cincinnati Bengals select Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU. I think that connection between Burrow and Chase is something that, especially because they're former teammates, is something they're just going to, take the chance on. That those guys were monsters together at LSU. They've got a connection, and I think that the Bengals we're gonna take that and know that they can get a tackle early 2nd, maybe even move up late into the 1st if they feel that they need. Moving on to the 6th pick, we have the Miami Dolphins, and they've got plenty of options. Really, almost anyone who's available right now they could take. Right? They could go with a tackle, Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater. They can go with the receiver, Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith. They could even go defense, right? Micah Parsons, Patrick Surtain, J.C. Horn. They could trade down. Honestly, there's reports that they're not happy with Tua. They could even take a quarterback if they wanted to with Trey Lance or Justin Fields here. So they literally have anything and everything available for them, really. I think that if they go tackle, it'll more likely be Slater. Waddle's the best receiver on the board at this point. Defense, maybe Parsons, though I don't know if they need linebacker that much. Trade down, the question is if there's someone willing to trade up in this spot, right? Considering all of this, I think that with the 6th pick, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle, wide receiver, Alabama. He's a top talent. I think that they just want to get Tua weapons because there was concerns about his production and how he played last year. I think that pushes them in the direction receiver. And they pick later in the 1st round too, so they can touch back down on, I think edge was another need they had. But yeah, they can touch back down on tackle late in the, well, they're not even late, they're a mid-1st round, so they could get someone like Tevin Jenkins mid-1st round. Or that's right where they could start picking up edge rushers, but right here would be way too early for that. With the 7th pick, we have the Detroit Lions, and they're also in the same boat that there's options for them here. They could go tackle as well. Slater or Sewell, both the top 2 tackles in the class are still available. If they want, they could go Devontae Smith, though I don't know if that's the best idea, but they did just lose Kevin Golladay. They've got Goff, who's going to need some weapons. Defense, they could go Parsons would be a pick here, possibly. And once again, they could be quarterback too. They put a lot of money in trading with Goff, though, so it's hard to say, right? But if they don't like him that much, they could go quarterback and have one on the cheap. But that doesn't seem likely, right? So here we go with my first trade. I have the Los Angeles Chargers actually trading up from 13 to 7. I'm not going to go into details of I'm not going to try and figure out what each trade's going to be. That's way too much. I think the Chargers trade up. Justin Herbert's been campaigning for, well, one, we're going to start off with, they need a tackle, right? So Herbert's been campaigning for them to get Sewell, but I don't think Sewell makes it down to pick 13. I've heard that, or not heard, but I've read that the Chargers might like Slater a little more because of his flexibility on the line, right? That you can move him into guard or tackle. But because of the Oregon connection, with the 7th pick in the draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Penei Sewell, tackle out of Oregon. Moving on to the 8th pick, we have the Carolina Panthers. Once again, these guys got options, right? Rashawn Slater, they could go with the tackle. Devontae Smith, Parsons, really just all the top guys in the draft, right? Patrick Surtain, Horn, trading down. Since they traded for Darnold, quarterback was going to be, the choice, right? But because of Darnold late in the process, it kind of removes that option and really opens them up to a lot of other stuff. So with this being said, I don't know if there's a clear option, and I think they can get, any position that they want later. And so I'm going back-to-back trades here. And the New England Patriots trade up from 15 to picks number 8 with the Carolina Panthers. Now this is a, out of left field kind of move for the Patriots. But, people will say historically, they haven't traded up, but they had Tom Brady, right? They never need to trade up for a position of need and importance like quarterback. Even though they re-signed Cam Newton, he's not the long-term option there. But yeah, I think they're better positioned to move up than other quarterback-needy teams like Washington or Chicago. Denver claims to still be in the quarterback market as well, so there's a chance that if New England want Fields, they need to jump on him and trade up higher than Denver, right? And it's important to mention that Denver's reportedly, right, high on Fields as well, right? So if New England wants Fields, which, as I said, I believe I read that they're kind of high on him, but they're going to want to do that, right? They don't want to give up on a future first-round pick, though, which could be difficult to make. It could make this move difficult. But the thing is, there's also reports that they might trade Stephon Gilmore or J.C. Jackson, right? So they have trade bait to get up to the first round with someone like Stephon Gilmore, who, I think is worth a first or second round pick, right? You could maybe use one of them as bait to get yourself up there without committing future first round picks for this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say, right? Like, the Patriots need a quarterback. Cam Newton's not the long-term option. You can have Fields sit behind Newton for a year, maybe take the reins throughout the season at some point. And yeah, I mean, you saw what they did in free agency. They obviously want to be competitive now with the way they revamped their entire roster. So this one is one it's hard to say if it's likely or not. Maybe they trade a little farther. Maybe they trade up but farther down in the draft. So like, in the early teens or late 10s. Well, this is late 10s, but I don't know. But that's just, an option. I see what could happen. And now for the 9th pick, we have the Denver Broncos. Trading for Bridgewater makes this decision interesting as well. Don't really know where to go, right? Because they could, be looking at him as a bridge quarterback. He could be a guy that they want to hold on to. I don't think Locke's the guy now if they're trading for Bridgewater. So yeah, if they've got options here. If they like Lance, they could pick him. Rashawn Slater's a good option. Maybe Parsons. They need a linebacker or edge rusher. But it's too high for edge rusher, right, in terms of value for number 9 and the level of pass rushers that are in this class. So this is gonna sound crazy, but we have 3 picks in a row. I promise there aren't as many picks as we go down to this draft, but the Philadelphia Eagles trade up from pick 12 to number 9 with the Denver Broncos. See, the Eagles, if there's a good chance, right, that they'll have to move up if they want to get a top receiver from this class. Because odds are Chase, Waddle, and Smith, right? Not all 3 of them are making it to where they're at. Odds are only one of them makes it to where they're at. But the thing is, right, the Giants select before them, and there's a good chance that if one of them make it to the Giants could select them, right? So if they want a top receiver from this class, they've got to move up to get it. This is probably as low as they can move up to make sure that they get it. I don't see the Cowboys taking a receiver, but they're also not going to probably trade back with the Eagles to let them get who they want. If they don't move up from here, they could just take someone like Surtain or Horn, whichever one falls to them, because one of those 2 should make it down to them. But if they want a receiver, they're going to have to move up here. So with that being said, the 9th pick in the draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Devontae Smith, wide receiver, Alabama. Now to the 10th pick. Another trade? No, I'm kidding. It's not going to be another trade. The Cowboys, there's some options here. Odds are this pick is a toss-up. It's going to be either Patrick Surtain III or J.C. Horn. Maybe there's a slight possibility of Slater if he falls this far because their line is aging, and that could be a good guy to refresh their offensive line. But odds are they're going to take a corner. They need that bad, right? So with the 10th pick in the draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Patrick Surtain, the third cornerback out of Alabama. We move on to the 11th pick, the New York Giants. They have many options here. They could go Rashawn Slater, which they could move him into guard. They could, move him to guard, hold him, and then move him to tackle after Solder's gone. Parsons is an option. If a Bama receiver is still available here, they could take him, but in this case, he's not. There's not any. Pass rusher is something that they need, but at this point, I don't think any of them have the value of the 11th pick. I don't think any pass rushers in this draft are really probably should be picked till like the 20s. They could trade down if they want one, though Gettleman doesn't have a history. He doesn't have a history. I don't think he's ever traded down, so it's hard to say. I think Judge, there were like two guys, I'm blanking on who it was. It was Parsons and someone else that their head coach, Joe Judge, went to the pro days of, but I'm blanking on it. He's a culture guy, which makes me lean away from Micah Parsons, because there's concerns about Parsons' character and how much he's into football. That being said, this one's a hard pick right here because I really think it could be Slater. But with the 11th pick in the draft, the New York Giants select Micah Parsons, linebacker out of Penn State. Now moving on, we have the 12th pick, which is the Denver Broncos, which they received from Philadelphia in their trade. In all the trades I'm doing, the teams are at least switching first round picks. It could play out differently in the actual draft, but I'm gonna just have it as all swap picks, and then assuming they trade other extras. I can't see Slater falling too much higher or too much lower than this. He'd be insane value right here. Arguably the best tackle in the class outside the top 10. They can also maybe take Trey Lance if they are high on him, because it's hard to say if he even makes it out the top 10. If Parsons was to fall here, right, say Slater goes to the Giants in the pick above, Parsons would be a pick here as well because he's a talent, and the farther down he goes, he's more likely to get picked just off of his talent. That being said, with the 12th pick in the draft, the Denver Broncos select Rashawn Slater, tackle out of Northwestern. As I said, I just think he's too high value for him not to get picked at this point. Honestly, some people think that he's the best tackle in the class. He's 1 or 2. Maybe even 1A, 1B type of thing. Now we move on to the 13th pick, which is the Detroit Lions from the Chargers. They have options here. At this point, Darrisaw is now the best tackle available. They could maybe look at Owusu-Koramoah, though it might be a bit high for him. J.C. Horn would also be an option here. I would think that the pick should be tackle. Stafford was playing through so many injuries last year, and Goff needed a line to look good in LA. So with that being said, with the 13th pick in the draft, the Detroit Lions select Christian Darrisaw, tackle out of Virginia Tech. Now, we move on to the 14th pick. We have the Minnesota Vikings, and they have options here, right? They could go Elijah Vera Tucker. They could go a pass rusher, even though maybe it's still a little early for that. Kwity Paye or Rousseau. But instead, what we have is another trade. The Washington football team trades up from 19 to 14 with the Minnesota Vikings. With Washington football team, Fitzpatrick is in the future. Maybe Heineke is, but I doubt it. And I feel like Trey Lance probably won't be available here, but in this case, he's slid all the way to 14. And with that, Washington football team manages to get the trade in here, as Minnesota probably won't trade to the rival Chicago. And with the 14th pick in the draft, the Washington football team selects Trey Lance, quarterback out of North Dakota State. Yeah, quarterback's a need. I don't know if the farther down Lance would go, if he goes this low, there's more likely teams are going to move up to get him, right? So I think that they move up. They have a history of moving up to get quarterbacks as well. So it's hard to say. That one could be a hit or miss pick, but you never know. With the 15th pick in the draft, we have the Carolina Panthers, which they received from New England for trading down. They've got options here as well. They could probably go J.C. Horn. He's the best corner available because of Farley's injury concerns. He probably won't be here. They could go Owusu-Koramoah because they need a linebacker. And honestly, I think that with the 15th pick in the draft, the Carolina Panthers select J.C. Horn, cornerback out of South Carolina. He's just too great of a value here. He could have been their pick at 8. Arguably, he's the best corner in the class. I don't know what else there is to say to that. It's just that it's a great value here. You got maybe possibly a top 10, top 15 talent in the draft, top 10 talent in 15. Like, you can't go wrong there. In the 16th pick, there's multiple options here. This is the Arizona Cardinals. There's rumors that they wanted to move up for a top receiver, but I don't think it's worth it going up to get one of them from 16, because they probably have to trade into the top 10 to get a Smith, Waddle, or Chase. Rashad Bateman could be the pick here, but do you need, one, it maybe is a bit early for him, but two, do you need Bateman when you already have DeAndre Hopkins? Like, I would think not, right? But I don't know. I feel like it would be high for Rashad Bateman or for Terrence Marshall Jr. I definitely think this would be too high. And Elijah Moore as well, I think this would be too high. Corner would probably be the move here. Maybe Caleb Farley, but odds are he's going to drop like possibly out of the first round because of injury concerns. So he might get passed up here. And with that, maybe Greg Newsome II, he would be a great option. He was amazing for Northwestern. And there's also rumors that they go for a top running back in the class, so Najee Harris or Travis Etienne. But I don't see that I don't think that's the biggest need. So with that being said, with the 16th pick in the draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Greg Newsome II, cornerback out of Northwestern. I don't know. There's many ways they could go, but I just think that's probably the best and safest options they have right now. Now, moving on to the 17th pick, we have the Oakland Raiders. The options here are likely Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Caleb Farley, but once again with the injury concerns, it could be too high for him. Maybe Tevin Jenkins. They want to work on their line a bit. But tackle's deep. They can probably fill that in the second round. With that being said, the pick for the Oakland Raiders, the 17th pick in the draft, the Oakland Raiders select Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker out of Notre Dame. I think that for the value, that's right where he should be going around, and he's a guy who's going to be all over the field and is a good pick for them. Now the 18th pick, the Miami Dolphins. I'm not sure what to do here for them because there's they've got options, right? It would probably be a reach for tackles at this point. Even Tevin Jenkins might be a bit of you're around 20, so it might not be a reach. But I don't know about the value for running back here either. They could take one, but I really don't know, right? Like, this for me would be a trade down spot. Maybe they take a risk on Farley. The pass rushers would be, this would be the spot probably to start taking pass rushers. And with that being said, with the 18th pick in the draft, the Miami Dolphins select Kwity Paye, edge rusher out of Michigan. The 19th pick, we have, once again, the Minnesota Vikings. This is their pick that they received from Washington. The options here are probably a pass rusher, Rousseau, Tevin Jenkins at tackle, Elijah Vera Tucker still available here as well. With that being said, it's the 19th pick. The Minnesota Vikings select Elijah Vera Tucker, guard out of USC, which I think is a great pick in terms of that's someone they could have got at 14. They trade down, get extra picks, get possibly future picks, and they get the guy that they were probably already looking at. Otherwise, I would think that he's probably a better talent to get than Jenkins or a pass rusher here. So, I think that this is a good pick for them if you're able to trade down and still get the guy you wanted. Now, moving on to the 20th pick, the Chicago Bears. All the quarterback prospects are gone. None of the top ones are going to be here. The next best one is what's his name? The guy, I'm blanking on his name, the guy out of Stanford, or maybe Kellen Mond. But those guys are like late day 2, possibly day 3 guys. So they're not going to have to worry about quarterback, right? They could go tackle, Tevin Jenkins. They go Bateman if they want to set themselves up with an Allen Robinson replacement since they franchise tagged him, and he's probably not going to stay. Maybe Farley's in the mix here as well. Considering all that, with the 20th pick, the Chicago Bears select Tevin Jenkins, tackle out of Oklahoma State. Moving on to the 21st pick, we have the Indianapolis Colts. They've got options here. They could look at a tackle, Eichenberg, Leatherwood, Cosme. They all could be anywhere from like late first round to anytime in the second round. So they all could get picked up later in the round. Receivers a need, but maybe not. I don't think a first round need. Probably not. They could look at an edge rusher like Rousseau or Phillips or Owe. They've got, several options here. And what I think actually happens is that the Baltimore Ravens trade up from pick 27 to 21 with the Indianapolis Colts. I think that the Ravens need to be aggressive. They have 2 first-round picks, right? So they need to go get a need. And I think that they need to get Lamar a guy that he can throw it up to, win those 50-50 balls, right? I think that they can get in a tackle with their second first-round pick, right? Eichenberger would have caused me. I think one of them will be available then. With the 21st pick, the Baltimore Ravens select Rashad Bateman, wide receiver, Minnesota. Yeah, I just think that they need to be aggressive. I think that Bateman will get taken before 27, so that's why they need to move up to get him. I think that he'd be great for the team. But yeah, they need to get Lamar a guy he can throw it up to. For the 22nd pick, we have the Tennessee Titans. They've got options here. They could go wide receiver, Terrace Marshall Jr., Elijah Moore, Kadarius Toney maybe. There's several tackles available here as well. Corner could be an option too. They've also had reported links to linebacker, which I don't really think they need to take first round. And they've also had links to safety Trevin Moehrig. But I think right here the pick is, for the 22nd pick, the Tennessee Titans select Terrace Marshall Jr., wide receiver, LSU. I think maybe this is a slight reach, but they need a receiver. Maybe it's a bit better than one of the tackles here. Moving to the 23rd pick, we have the New York Jets. They've also got options. They could go for one of the tackles. They could go for a wide receiver, but at this point, maybe it's maybe a bit of a reach. They could go with maybe one of the 2 top running backs here, Harris or Etienne. I think that might, 23rd, I think that you could take a running back here, like a top running back of the class. So with that, the 23rd pick, the New York Jets select Travis Etienne, running back out of Clemson. Now moving on to the 24th pick, the Steelers. I think the pick here should be a tackle, but I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being one of the top 2 running backs in the class, so Harris or Etienne. With that being said, I have the Steelers picking, with the 24th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Najee Harris, running back out of Alabama. As I think tackle would be the better pick. Maybe they wait a little bit and get a tackle a little bit later. The 25th pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars. For the Jaguars, I think the options are Christian Barmore, the defensive tackle, or Trevin Moehrig, the safety, right? And I think for this pick, what they go with is Christian Barmore, defensive tackle out of Alabama. He's probably the best. He's the best tackle, the best defensive tackle in this class, and it's a very not a deep class at all. It's very shallow. So to get probably the only probably first round talent, a defensive tackle, I don't see anything bad with taking that. If he doesn't go here, he'll still go first round, I think, but he's gonna go sometime soon in the late first round if he wasn't to go, if this pick was like Trevin Moehrig instead. For the 26th pick, we have the Cleveland Browns. Edge or linebacker is probably the move here. It could be Azeez Ojulari, Jalen Phillips, Gregory Rousseau, Jason Owe, Jamin Davis, or Zaven Collins. These are all guys that this pick could be. It's really just like who they like, you know what I mean? With the 26th pick, the Cleveland Browns select Jalen Phillips, edge out of University of Miami. Now, moving on to the 27th pick, we have the Indianapolis Colts, which they received from Baltimore. All the tackles they might want are still available here after trading down, and there's several pass rush options available, right? This pick has got to be either a tackle or an edge rusher. With that being said, I think that this pick is the Indianapolis Colts select Azeez Ojulari, edge out of Georgia. Moving on to the 28th pick, we have the New Orleans Saints. There's a lot of talk of them moving up. I don't know if they will, particularly for a corner. So this pick will probably either be a corner or a linebacker, right? There's buzz around Jamin Davis, and maybe they go Farley at this point. As I said, I think he's going to go late first round. But I went ahead and just went with the New Orleans Saints selecting Jamin Davis, linebacker out of Kentucky. For the 29th pick, we have the Green Bay Packers. I think the Packers, they've got, receiver, tackle, or corner here. They could go tackle very easily. They could go receiver, but I think that they'd be better off just waiting on a receiver at this point. I think that what they end up picking is the Green Bay Packers select Caleb Farley, cornerback out of Virginia Tech. This guy's a top 15 talent in the class, and they're getting him, end of the first, 29th pick. He won't be around the next time they pick, I imagine. But this, I see this as you can't pass it up, right? Like, there's concern that, of his injuries, but if he's able to play, you're getting a steal here, which I think he should be able to play. With the 30th pick, we have the Buffalo Bills. Their defense needs help, right? This is going to be a pass rusher or a corner, this pick right here. And I think that they go with Gregory Rousseau, edge out of Miami. Moving on, we have the 31st pick. The Baltimore Ravens select again. Here, it's going to be what? Tackle or edge rusher, maybe replacing, I'm blanking on his name, but the tackle they just traded to the Chiefs. Or, yeah, edge rusher. And what I'm going to go with is the Baltimore Ravens select Jason Owe, edge out of Penn State. I don't know. Here's the thing, right? His production necessarily isn't necessarily there, especially off of last season. But I think what will happen is when you put him in a defense like the Ravens, it won't necessarily matter his production in the past. That I think that the defense is so good that he'll get production out of it just because of that. That defense will create opportunities for each other. So I think that the potential there is really good, especially late first. So I see him going there, but it really could be any of the edge rushers. I don't know if there's one that, at this point would be way above the rest. And finally, for the last pick in the draft, we have the 32nd pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they really have the freedom to pick whatever they want. They re-signed everyone from their Super Bowl team, so they could really go best player available or a need, right? A good idea might be a high upside player who needs some time to develop still. So they could probably look at edge, defensive tackle, but at this point, I don't think there's anyone worth it there. I'm going to go with Joe Tryon, edge out of Washington. With that being said, this is going to be the end of the video. That was a long one, so anyone who watched through, I really appreciate it. Go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, all that type of stuff if you haven't. Go ahead and leave me a comment what you thought, maybe any predictions you have for the draft. Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Let's have a good one.